links or some handouts or PDFs or whatever we need to follow up with. So welcome. This is our mission if you want to read it. So our agenda is packed. Like I said, we're going to do some commission updates, fiscal updates, Youth Mental Health Corps updates. Sasha is going to talk about the member survey that went out in May, June, and get some insights onto that. Alex is going to talk a little bit about Base Camp and the member launch and training. And then if you guys have any final thoughts or questions, this is the time to ask them. So welcome to the 25-26 program year. It's very exciting. Claps, snaps. I didn't know if we were going to get here, but we're here today. So this is great. I have some updates from our office about staffing, about the calendar, the handbook, contracts, and closeouts. So I'm just going to go through those. Feel free to raise your hand, or if you want to put a question in the chat. And then Sasha, if you're able to just field those chat questions and send them to me if we need to, that would be great. I wanted to start with just a staffing update. This is our staff. This I took from the handbook. So this information, all of our contact information, our pictures. Some of you met us in July. Some of you met us in August. I just want to briefly go through who's on the call from the staff and what their role is. So I introduced myself. My name is Samantha Lukashevitz. I'm the AmeriCorps manager, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista and Vista Leader alum. I'm going to pass it to Kathy.
Good morning, everyone. It's so great to see you. It's a beautiful day in Virginia, and it's wonderful to be starting the program year with all of you today. I am the director at Serve Virginia, and I'm just completing 5 years, which is just amazing. I've been here this long. I'm going to turn it over to Annalise.
Morning, everyone. My name is Annalise Gamble, and I'm the statewide engagement officer. So kind of all things partnerships, getting to get connected with other folks across the state and your community. Feel free to reach out. And I'm an AmeriCorps state alum from many years ago, but excited to be here, and I'll pass over to Alex.
I'm Alex Vanek. I am the Program Development Officer. I've been with Serve Virginia for coming up on 4 years here soon. I'm an AmeriCorps Vista alum, and my role is working as a program officer with the planning grants and generally supporting events and training across the portfolio. And I will pass it over to Erin.
Erin Donovan, AmeriCorps Program Officer. I've been here 6 months now, and I am an AmeriCorps Vista alum. And I think Sasha is up next.
Hey everyone, I am Sasha Bronder. I'm our other AmeriCorps Program Officer. I joined the team in 2020 as our Vista leader and then transitioned into my current role about 2.5 years ago. And I am also an AmeriCorps Vista alum. And I will pass it over to Mackenzie.
Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Mackenzie Voto. I'm our current AmeriCorps Vista leader. I am coming to the end of my second term of Vista service with Serve Virginia. I'm happy to be here with you all today.
Awesome. I think that's all the staff that we have. You see, we also have Jay Young and Sarah Lawson. I do want to give a quick staffing update that Mackenzie, who just introduced herself as our Vista leader, will be transitioning to our Youth Mental Health Corps coordinator. She's been officially hired and will start 9/25. So anybody who has a Youth Mental Health Corps program, snaps and claps. She will be your first point of contact for that. For our fiscal officer, we have yet to hire that position. We actually just reposted it today. So we are looking for someone with AmeriCorps experience. If you have an alum or someone who worked at your organization and transitioned for whatever reason, who you think would be a good fit for this fiscal role. I don't know when it closes. Like I said, it just posted like an hour ago. But we are in desperate need of a fiscal officer. So it is a remote position. We do ask that the person comes in at least once a month to the Richmond office, but I'll be sending this link out if you have anybody who's interested. So
I also just wanted to make a note. We're so excited for Sarah Lawson. She's been with us for about 2 years, but she is transitioning into her next chapter as a clinical social worker. So we're excited to support her, but it also means that her last day is Friday. And so we will, in the near future, be looking for another communications coordinator. So if you know of anybody that might be a good fit, feel free to send them my way, and I'd be happy to talk with them about the position.
I appreciate that, Annalise. So we are going some staff transitions in communications and fiscal, which are very important roles. So please bear with us. Okay. So I just uploaded the new program year calendar. I believe that I also sent out an email with it attached. If you want to take a look at this, it's also in Basecamp, and Alex will show you obviously where it lays. But it does have the GPR dates on it, which are quarterly, the PER dates on it, which are quarterly, days of service, these calls, these bi-monthly calls it has on there, and I'll also send out a calendar invite. And then we've added something called a quarterly fiscal meeting. We do those kind of informally with programs, but we're going to be more intentional this year about having the fiscal officer, when we hire them, meet with programs quarterly, because the goal is obviously to spend your grant and not have any carry forward funds or any not spent money. And also, I mean, other things come into play when we talk about underspend, right? Like recruitment, retention. But we're going to be more intentional about working with programs on what their budgets look like. And then Alex will talk a little bit more about it later, but we've added something called the subject matter expert calls it's traditionally for planning grants, but everybody will be invited. Did I see a question in the chat?
Yes, we have from Ethan. When is our pre-award PER due? They're a little confused about that.
Sure. So I do have that in the fiscal updates, but I will tell you that the first periodic expense report for 25-26 is due October 10th. So the pre-award cost letter memo signature page is due back to me by September 15th. So the end of this week, early next week. And then you'll submit any pre-award costs in your submission for October. And that's on here. So any expense reports to finish up 24-25 are due October 10th. Any pre-award costs and September costs for 25-26 are also due October 10th. Okay. Keep it moving. This update is taken directly from the email that I sent out, I think a couple weeks ago. So 25-26 contracts have been sent out. I think maybe we're missing 2 or 3 that were not sent in yet for a variety of reasons, and that's fine. But I believe everybody's signature page has been countersigned and sent back to you. If it hasn't and you've sent in your contract,
Can't read.
is someone protesting this? Let's mute that. Okay, thank you. So if you are missing a contract for 25-26, please contact me or your program officer and me, and we can get that worked out. For reinstatements, we're still keeping it on, we're keeping it moving. And like I said in my email, those will be sent out in October. And then we'll process any expense reports for terminated programs that were reinstated from May to August. We'll process those invoices in October. Trying to keep all these dates straight. Okay. Closeout. So if you were a terminated program who is not getting reinstated, you don't have to do anything. You filled out your closeout paperwork. You've marked your expense report as final. That's awesome. For those programs on this call that are being reinstated, I'm going to send back your April expense report. We're going to unmark it final because it doesn't collate if you continue to send in invoices. It doesn't deduct from your budget. So it can't be marked final. April cannot be marked final if you're going to expend more money. And I'm going to send that back. And then you're going to submit, like I said, your May through August expense reports in October. And then you're going to re-sign. We're going to cancel out the 3 papers that you had signed about supplies, equipment, and your sub-grantee certification. And you're going to re-sign that. For non-terminated programs, so you've had a contract this whole time, by October 10th, we're going to submit the final PER for 24-25. You're going to exit all of your members. You have 30 days to do that. That's an AmeriCorps rule. And then you're going to submit your closeout documents. The signature page is for supplies, equipment, and sub-grantee certification by October 30th. I will send out a checklist that has all this information on it. And hopefully you or someone in your organization knows what category you're falling into, whether you were terminated and not reinstated, whether you were terminated and reinstated, or if you were a continuous operational program throughout the year. I know it's a little confusing. If you need help understanding or identifying what your organization needs to do, please reach out to your program officer. Okay. And then fiscal updates, I've kind of covered these. If you plan to submit pre-award costs, I think I only have 3 or 4 memos. So we don't traditionally collect source documentation when we do expense reports, but we can look at an expense report that's sent in October for September costs, compare it against your enrollment. And if it looks a little too high, I can imagine that you maybe have included pre-award costs for staff time. And then I'm going to ask for source documentation. You can avoid that if you submit the memo for pre-award costs. Even if you don't actually plan on doing it, I would submit it so those costs are allowable to you. That's due the 15th. There's an email about it. If you need to get the form again or you can't find it, please reach out to your program officer. And then the final, I think I mentioned this, the final 24-25 PERs are due October 10th. There are some organizations on here that are current operational or were current operational programs that just ended August 31st, who I don't have expense reports for, that were due back in April or May. And a couple I've sent back to fix your indirect costs. We do not have a fiscal officer right now. So I'm splitting my time doing that, plus working with our executive assistant to do that. And so I will send out an email. I'm going to do an audit of where we are financially and fiscally with all these expense reports and reach out to you. But it's hard for me to continue to chase you to get your money if you're not, willing to communicate or willing to acknowledge that I've sent you back your expense reports. It's just vitally important that we close out the year pretty strong. So I will get that out to everybody by Monday if you're missing expense reports. And then for the 25-26 program year, so 27, but your September PER is due October 10th, and then any pre-award costs. You can only submit expense reports if your budget is approved in AmeriCorps. So if your program officer has sent you back your budget to fix it for whatever reason, maybe something's in the grantee in-kind column that needs to be in the in-kind or in the cash column, or your indirect costs are incorrect, whatever it is, if it's not approved, you can't submit expense reports. So make sure that you're double checking in AmeriCorps that your budget is approved. I think that's all I have for fiscal updates and commission updates. Does anyone have any questions? And then real quick for Youth Mental Health Corps, we've been talking about it a lot, and the program has finally launched, which is really, really exciting. These are the programs currently that are going to be participating in Youth Mental Health Corps that are going to have members serving alongside with their other members. So we have ILR, City of Richmond, College of William and Mary, AMPACT, and then we have 2 academic institutions that are also going to have Youth Mental Health Corps members. So just super excited. I did want to give them a specific update that we're going to be sending out a member data sheet to collect information about any members, because we have, obviously we have your rosters, but we need to identify which of your members is enrolled in Youth Mental Health Corps so they can have access to these additional and supplemental benefits. We also need to collect host site information, and then I'm working with Mackenzie, who's going to be the new coordinator, to augment the GPR. So there's some additional data that we've talked about during our convening that we'll want you to collect. So that is forthcoming as well. Okay, that was a lot of information, so I apologize. I'm going to pass it to Sasha to talk about some stuff that's a little bit more fun.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and get my slides up. Okay, perfect. Can everyone see that? Give me a thumbs up.
Yes.
Perfect. Fantastic. So to give you all a little bit of an overview, especially for folks who are new this year, we conduct the member survey every year. This is something that we have revised a little bit over the last couple of years and now have a pretty standardized list of questions, 34 questions that we are sending out. So over the years, we're going to be able to make a pretty direct comparison between what different cohorts are responding. This year, we received a total of 106 responses. That's about a 37% response rate, which is pretty good for a survey like this. We did send out 2 different surveys. Members who were with programs that were terminated received a shortened version. This survey went out pretty shortly after the termination notices went out, and we did not want to overwhelm members at a difficult time, but also felt that it was important to get their feedback and hear about their experience. So we selected what we felt were some of the most important questions to pose to them. And then members from programs who were not terminated received the full survey. And then we did see that members from non-terminated programs were almost twice as likely to respond, which again, I think makes sense. Members who were terminated were in a really difficult position last May and probably did not have a lot of bandwidth to put to this. But from the members who did respond, we got some really interesting responses that I'll get into in a minute. Next up, so the purpose of the survey, why do we do this? Really, we conduct this survey to receive feedback from members on their service experience from members all across the state of Virginia. We also use it to identify statewide trends and needs and concerns of members and to build evidence to support new initiatives and policy changes that we are pursuing at the commission level. I'm going to jump into a few highlights from the survey. Of course, as we go through, anyone has questions or anything you would like to share, feel free to pop it in the chat, but I will also have some time held at the end for any questions, suggestions, and thoughts that you all have. So the first section that I wanted to take a look at was retention and re-enrollment. When we asked members if they had already served a term of service, 32% of members reported that they were returning. They had already served at least one term of service. And of those, 25% reported that they had already completed 2 or more terms. So we're seeing that based on the survey, a lot of folks are re-enrolling. They are very interested in continuing to serve, which I think is a really great indicator that folks are having positive experiences and finding this to be a rewarding experience. We also asked about future plans, and 34% of our respondents indicated that they plan to re-enroll in AmeriCorps, the majority of those folks with the same program that they are serving with right now. One thing that I noted in the short responses in this same category is that many members used the short response opportunity to praise their program and their staff, again, really emphasizing how supported they felt and how fantastic the folks that they worked with were. So just shout out to everyone who works directly with members. Folks are appreciating your support and having really positive experiences. Next up, we are moving into recruitment and outreach. We asked members how they heard about their service opportunity, and you can see down here at the bottom, we had 51% of members say that they heard about their service opportunity through personal referral or word of mouth. I think that really demonstrates how important those local champions are, having people on the ground who are talking about service, talking about positive experiences, and who are willing to really advocate for national service and for your program. Below that, we had 19% say that they found their opportunity through a job search website, and then an additional 11% who said that they found it through the AmeriCorps website / My AmeriCorps. We also asked members whether this is usually how they hear about their job or service opportunities, and 50% of members said that this is how they typically find those opportunities. So more than half, not a super significant number, but it does show that this is a fairly good representation. We asked folks which job websites they found their opportunities on. If they said that they found it on a job search website, and the most common responses there were Indeed and college job boards. So if that is a resource that you use to socialize your listings, those are the 2 places that I would recommend focusing. We also asked members who indicated that they found their service opportunity through personal referral or word of mouth, who they heard about that opportunity from. 31% said that they heard about their opportunity through program staff. So this could be through, conversations, through personal contacts, things like that. We had 25% say that they heard about their opportunity through an alumni or current member, and then 16% each said family member or a school counselor. We also asked members which of the following incentives would be most attractive to you in considering an AmeriCorps opportunity. We selected these options based on what we see programs providing, what we at the commission have had conversations about, and the sort of things that we're already seeing in the field and think could be practical to provide for most programs. The number one response, and this is something that we see every year throughout multiple sections of the survey, is a higher living allowance. 71% of members said that a higher living allowance would be very attractive to them in considering an AmeriCorps opportunity. The next most common responses were training resulting in professional certificates or licenses, access to college courses or other higher education, and additional support in securing employment after service. These, I think, taken together really show that members are very interested in professional development, very interested in career pathways, and really looking to see how national service, how AmeriCorps can set them up for success in their next steps. So a few takeaways from this section. Word of mouth remains unmatched as the most successful recruitment method. That is how the vast majority of folks are hearing about their service opportunities. So having, again, folks in the community, local champions, people who are able to talk about national service, talk about the benefits, and talk about positive experiences is invaluable. Local champions like program staff, members, alumni are really just so important when we're talking about recruitment and outreach. And then in addition to the sustainable living allowance that I mentioned, members are really interested in these service to career pathways that are going to set them up for success. Next up, thinking about the member experience. We asked folks, how well do you feel your orientation and training prepared you for your service activities? This was a rate 1 to 5, 5 being not at all prepared, 1 being not at all prepared, 5 being fully prepared. You can see that we had 46% of members say that they felt fully prepared, with an additional 41% saying that they felt somewhat prepared, which is, I think there's a little bit of room for improvement here, definitely, but still a very strong showing. We had only 13% of members overall saying that they basically didn't feel prepared, which is pretty positive, all things considered. This question was phenomenal. How well supported do you feel by your supervisor and other staff at your program? 78% of members said that they felt fully supported by their supervisor and by other staff. And this was an increase of about 10% from the same question asked last year. That was a concern that we actually flagged in the survey results last year, that there were a lot of folks expressing concerns or challenges in working with staff at their site and at their program. So seeing this improve was something that I found really heartening. Next up, we asked members how well their service experience met their expectations. Again, this was a 1 to 5 scale, and we had 65% of members say that their service experience fully met their expectations. Pretty strong show of support. Next up is a couple of questions where we ask, after completing their term of service, do members feel more prepared, equally prepared, or less prepared for their future career? And after completing their term of service, do they feel more likely, equally likely, or less likely to volunteer in the future? Here, I've separated out the responses between members from terminated programs and non-terminated programs, because this is one of the places where we saw kind of a consistent difference in the responses. You can see there's about a 5-point difference in the terminated and non-terminated programs. More folks from the non-terminated programs were saying that they felt more prepared for their future career. More folks from the terminated programs were saying that they felt equally prepared, which again, having their service disrupted, especially at that critical, end of the year where they are thinking about life after AmeriCorps, thinking about their next steps, it makes sense. And then we see the same trend here with the question about volunteering. Pretty disappointingly, we do see that members from the terminated programs are about 5% less likely to say that they were more likely to volunteer in the future, and about 5% more likely to say that they were less likely to volunteer in the future, which is really So again, given the circumstances that they were in, I don't think it's terribly surprising. Next up, in the member experience, we asked what are some ways that service experience could have been improved. The top two responses you can see are mental health support to avoid burnout, more or different training for service activities, and the third response was more interaction with other AmeriCorps members. I want to take a minute to focus on the mental health support. That response jumped from the fourth most common response last year to the first this year. It increased by over 10%. So that is something that folks are definitely interested in, and there seems to be an increasing concern about mental health supports and about burnout, and a greater need for members to receive those benefits, those resources to make sure that they are able to show up at their best every day. So a few takeaways for this section. Overall, members are, again, reporting very positive experiences. Members highlighted strong relationships with program and site staff, but they do show interest in more interaction with other members. I do think that there's some room for improvement in training and onboarding to help members feel fully prepared for service. Again, that's the question where there is about a 50% split, with folks saying that they felt fully prepared for service versus folks who said they felt somewhat prepared, as well as when asked about what could have improved their experience, we had quite a few members saying that more different training would have helped. So for folks who are thinking about ways to improve the program, ways to revise plans, I think that that would be a really valuable place to focus. Next up, thinking about future plans. We asked members what they are planning to do after their term of service. 46% said that they are planning to pursue employment, so find a full-time job somewhere. 39% said that they are planning to go into college or another educational route. And we had 34% again say that they are planning to pursue another term of AmeriCorps service. Something that I found really interesting on this question was that between terminated members and non-terminated, there was no difference in the number who said that they were planning to pursue another term of AmeriCorps service. And that's something that we saw in other sections and short responses and things. Even members who went through this really difficult experience still had very, very positive feelings towards their program, towards AmeriCorps, and still seemed to really believe in the mission of this program, which was really wonderful to see. Next up, we asked folks which of the following fields they plan to seek employment in. K through 12 education was the number one response at 34%, followed by state, local, or federal government, and higher education as our top responses. You can also see that medical or the healthcare field was at about 10% this year. I'm very interested to see how that changes next year with the introduction of the Youth Mental Health Corps. We also asked folks how they plan to use their Siegel Education Award. The number one response was that they're planning to continue their education. That is very interesting in thinking about, partnerships and benefits that we can offer to members. AmeriCorps has a nationwide program of schools of national service, a database of schools that offer additional benefits to members, either in terms of scholarships, admissions preference, things like that. And I think that this really high number of folks who are planning to at some point go back to school, continue their education, in addition to a couple questions ago, we had about 30% saying that they're planning to go into education as their next steps, really shows that there would be value in pursuing those relationships to help support members as they move into education after service. Few takeaways for future plans. Members are drawn to specific fields, which can inform decisions around service to career pathways programming. And over half of members intend to continue their education at some point in the future, which again makes those relationships with colleges and universities particularly valuable. And again, most of the data in this section was largely the same between members who are from terminated programs and non-terminated programs. We did have 2 short response questions that we asked. When asked about the highlight of their experience, member responses mainly fell into 4 buckets. We had making a difference. So these were folks who really focused on kind of the outcome of their service, talking about, seeing a child learn to read or learn to, get up to their grade level in math, talking about, seeing folks um, gain citizenship or, get into college when they had not considered that as an option before. We had about 32% of responses were talking about personal connections, so talking about the relationships that they formed either with other AmeriCorps members, with site staff, with program staff, or with the folks who they were serving directly. We had 15% who were really focusing on the community engagement that they saw, focusing on learning more about their community, being able to serve their community, and just gaining more knowledge, more connection to the community in which they live. And we had an additional 15% who were focused on individual growth. So thinking about how this experience helped to build their own skills and set them on a career path in the future. I do want to give a quick shout out. We had a couple of really common events that were mentioned in these short responses, talking about the highlights. UVA members really focused on Decision Day. We had a ton of members who were talking about the Decision Day event as something that was really impactful, really positive, and just something that they really loved to be a part of. So love to hear about that. And then City of Richmond, you had a lot of members who talked about the United Way conference that you sent them to in Nevada, saying that that was a really amazing experience. I know that that takes a ton of coordination to get members across the country for professional development opportunity. So shout out to both of those programs. Your members really appreciated those efforts. And then our last question or response was just if there was anything else that members would like to share with us. We kind of expected members to use this question to share concerns and, issues that they saw during their service. And we're honestly really pleased to see that there were not a lot of those. We saw about 33% of members use this question to just give overall praise for the program. A lot of them shouted out their specific program, their program staff, their site supervisors, folks who they worked with, and really appreciated the support that they offered. So that was really fantastic to see. We had another 16% who talked specifically again about their individual growth, talking about how this experience had changed their worldview, had shaped their next steps, and helped determine, where they're headed after AmeriCorps. And then we do get into some of the more challenging responses. We had 8% of members overall, but 16% of members specifically from terminated programs who talked about termination disappointment. Again, I was really pleased, really heartened to see that most of these members were not angry, were not, upset with the program. A lot of them were, again, expressing disappointment, were, saying that they saw the impact of these programs and really hoped that they would be able to continue in some shape or form. So even though they were talking about, the negative impacts of these terminations, there was a lot of hope and a lot of grace in those responses. And then we had the remaining 8% did talk about negative experiences. A lot of those were, again, related to the living allowance or, highlighting things like interpersonal conflicts or, kind of a personal issue, things like, a paperwork mix up that made their service more challenging or things like that. But aside from the living allowance, largely not anything that was a trend. Okay, so that is the end of the highlights that I wanted to share. We do have a full report that goes through all of the questions we ask and results, which I am happy to send out to folks so you can take a look at them on your own time. But in the meantime, I do want to open the floor for just a minute and see if there are any questions or anything that folks would like to talk about now. Craig, do you have any insights into which types of programs had members cite the need for more mental health support? That is a great question. I did not do program by program analysis this year, but that is certainly something that I can look at. I can pull up that question and see if I can see any trends either by program or, like you said, by the type of program, whether it's school-based, healthcare-based, things like that. So I will make a note to take a look at that and see if I can pull out any highlights. Any other questions or suggestions? Again, this is something that we do every year. So definitely love to hear feedback on questions that you would like to see, or, other ways that you would like to see questions analyzed, and anything else that we can do to make this more helpful. I'm not seeing anything, so I'm going to pass it over to Alex. And if anyone does have questions or anything you would like to chat about further, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'm happy to chat.
Thank you, Sasha. And yeah, for those of you who haven't, really dived into the member survey data every year, it's very helpful, and Sasha's done a great job with it and getting more responses. So that's a tool that we reference at Serve Virginia for a lot of decisions we make. So that's good stuff there. All right, we are going to talk about Basecamp next. So I'm actually going to pull up Basecamp. And what I'm really going to use today to do is walk through all of the different tools and sections and capabilities here. Know that everything I'm going to say out loud right now, I have also written up into a guide, which you all will get as a follow-up resource. But now is a great time to ask questions, ask for additional clarification, or just generally if there's any other guidelines that you want to be established, now's the time to bring those up to me. So let's talk about Basecamp. Starting from the top, requesting and gaining access. When a new staff member on your team needs access to Basecamp, whether they're new to the organization, they're new to working with AmeriCorps, you're going to email your program officer, give the name and email address for the person who needs to be added, and then from our end, we will send that request for them to be added to the Basecamp account to Ask America Service Commissions, who administers it. They will add that person to the Basecamp account, and they'll receive an email giving them access. Note that there's a 48-hour, 2-day time limit before that invitation to join the account expires. So if you're working with us on getting someone added, please make sure that you're kind of attentive to that, since that's kind of a live process that we'll go through quickly. Next, thinking about the calendar tool that's on here. The calendar, I'm going to click and open. That calendar earlier that Samantha screen shared, I have added those dates onto this calendar in Basecamp as well. So this will primarily be a tool for Serve Virginia to add those relevant dates for the whole portfolio to this calendar. All of you all, I would not say should be adding anything to this calendar unless you bring it to your program officer first and it's something that's relevant for the whole portfolio. That way we can keep this clean, concise, there's no confusion about what's on here and who it's relevant for. You can use this to find the date and time and relevant links to join different portfolio calls. It will mark dates like PER due dates, days of service, the member launches that we'll be talking about a little bit later. And the other helpful thing that this can do for you is if you want to add all of these dates to your calendar, you can click this add this schedule to your calendar link up here. And this will let you download this and add it right onto your own calendar. So if you want to save time inputting all of those dates for the program year, just go into Basecamp, go to this calendar, and download that calendar and add it to your own. As a note, once you do that, it will not automatically update it. So if there are new dates that get added, you'll have to don't think that once you've added that, it's kind of like done and you're going to get full updates from us. You still need to pay attention to emails and any new dates that you might get. But if you want to get all of those marked off, this is a great way to do that here at the beginning of the program year. Next is email forwards. So admittedly, Christina was the main person who was doing a great job with this on the Serve Virginia side, and we'll still be working on kind of figuring out our workflow for this. But the email forwards is a place where we can send in emails from the agency, from Ask, from Encore, kind of any other official communications that are, again, relevant for the whole portfolio. We can keep a record of those in here if you ever need to reference those kind of official communications. You all should not be forwarding anything into here unless, again, email your program officer, say, hey, I saw this that I think would be relevant for everyone, get permission, and then you can forward that in. Again, so we make sure that this is mostly clean and relevant for the entire portfolio. Before I dive into the resource portal, let me just pause and see if there are any questions on access, the commission calendar, or email forwards. Okay, seeing none, we will proceed, and I will pick up more questions at the end of all this. So, going on to the resource portal. So the resource portal is kind of divided into a few sections here. First off, this community of practice folder is what we talked about at August training. This is for you all, for you to upload any tools, resources that you want to keep track of to share with the rest of the portfolio. This is your space to build. So us at Serve Virginia, we will not be touching this folder. Know that you asked for this, and so it is here. As a general rule, if you put something in here, make sure to put it in the correct folder. If the resource you're adding doesn't fit into any of the current categories, create a new folder, but try not to create things that are like too specific. We want things to fit into broad categories so it stays organized. And if you update a resource, make sure that you only have the most recent version of it uploaded to Basecamp. To go through the parts of this with Serve Virginia we'll be organizing, you can see up here the AmeriCorps program manual for the year and the calendar for the year have both been added and updated from last year, so you can find both of these resources for yourself to download. And then a variety of other folders, which I'm not going to dive into fully, but know that in the written guidance I'm going to send out, I'll have gone through all of the subdivisions within each of these. The ones that are most relevant for right now that I'm just going to pull up quickly. If you go into commission events and training, program year 2025-2026, you'll be able to find the call recordings and the notes from both of our summer trainings. So this has all of the slides from our July technical assistance calls, and this document contains all of the links to the YouTube videos with the recordings from those workshops. In the August AmeriCorps convening one, you can find slides on the Virginia Community Engagement Index that Andy presented, and you can also find the kind of consolidated summaries and your staff commitment notes that you all created on here as well, if you ever want to reference any of those thoughts that you all had together. Moving on to the message board. So the message board is primarily a tool for you all to communicate with each other, to ask questions, share ideas and information, coordinate on collective efforts. As a general rule, if there's a question that is specific to your program and specific to what you are doing, it will always be better to just send an email to your program officer, especially if it's really technical. So just to kind of use what's on here already as some good examples, thanks to those of you all who have been using this already. Mary's question about days of service, Jess noting that they have a candidate interested in serving in schools and they could pass that along. Great uses of this where Serve Virginia staff don't need to come in and monitor that. You all can directly share that kind of information with each other really easily. Looking at the other two recent ones from Mary, we can start to get into some of the other cases that you might see. Policies about payroll taxes. This is a question you can ask to other folks in the portfolio to see like maybe how they've handled situations like that. But I would say that's also the kind of more specific thing which you might want to send directly to your program officer, especially if like you post this on the 6th and maybe you haven't gotten a response. Go ahead like the next day, send that to your program officer directly, and we'll make sure that we get that taken care of. But yeah, this is great to be putting. I would say always err on the side of if it's a question someone else could help with, put it on the message board. The logo one is another really, really great one to put up here because the AmeriCorps site, the like AmeriCorps national page is actually down right now. So finding the logos there is a little bit tricky. But all of our programs should have used the logos in their own resources at some point and could have that. And our Serve Virginia staff would have that as well. So this is a good question to put up here as something where it's like someone from this community of practice should be able to help with that. And again, if a day passes and no one responds, shoot an email to your program officer and we'll make sure to help you out. Okay. The last tool in here to go over is the campfire, which we haven't used yet, but I wanted to set some kind of ground rules for this as well today. This is a live chat tool. So if there was an instance where you and another program are maybe looking to talk something over, and for some reason you don't want to use a phone call or use emails, you could also log into Basecamp and live chat here in the campfire to have discussions with each other, and know that it would be something that, like, maybe it's a relevant conversation that other people in the portfolio might want to see is happening as well. Those are all of our tools in Basecamp. Any questions or comments that folks have before we move on? All right. Use Basecamp is the bottom line there. Know that it will be helpful. It will make all of your lives easier, help you feel less isolated as you're doing all of this work. All right. We're going to switch back over to slides now, and I'll talk about member launch. So we have 2 member launch events that are coming up in October. The first of which is going to take place virtually on Thursday, October 9th from 10 a.m. to 11:30 on Zoom. I will pop the link in the chat here once I'm done with these slides. This is an event that we do every year. It's a chance to launch the AmeriCorps cohort across Virginia, introduce Serve Virginia and the larger AmeriCorps community to the members. It's a chance to hear from member and alumni speakers. And going back to one of those findings that Sasha went over in the member survey, these launch events, this is really what we can do from Serve Virginia to provide the chance for members to interact with each other. And so as I circle back here to that bullet point about this being mandatory for all members, we know that many of you might have member service hours scheduled during this time. If there is a circumstance that's completely unavoidable and you can't reschedule around, let your program officer know. But I do want to emphasize that it is important for members to attend the launch events. This is the chance for all the members to be together in the room during the year, and there will not be other chances like this until the end of the service year, most likely. So we want to build that sense of identity, that cohort structure. We want AmeriCorps members to feel like they're part of the larger movement. And this is when we're providing that. We are going to do some time during this for smaller breakout rooms for members to actually talk with each other. So we've made changes to how this event is usually run to allow for that kind of space to exist. So please be sending this link to register out to all of your members this week. Make sure you're getting it on calendars. If there are conflicts, again, bring those to myself and your program officer, and we'll talk it through. But do want to emphasize that this is important for members to be at. Any questions about virtual launch or any other notes from other Serve Virginia staff before I talk about Youth Mental Health Corps launch? Great. So that is on Thursday, October 9th, virtual. Now, we also are beginning Youth Mental Health Corps this year. Samantha showed earlier, those of you who are involved as programs in that, thank you for being part of this new initiative. We're really excited that this is moving forward. We will be having an in-person launch event for Youth Mental Health Corps on Friday, October 10th. It'll run from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in Richmond. Big thank you to Paul and Jess and the City of Richmond folks for working with us on this to help find a space in Richmond for us to do this great event. This will be, and note that the information on here is kind of the first note on this. Annalise and I and Mackenzie now will be following up with all of you involved on this with more information pretty quickly this week so that you can get this out to members who need to be there and to schedule that time for yourselves. We are looking for Youth Mental Health Corps members across the state to be in person for this. This will be a pretty big event with folks from the current administration, with local elected officials, other people who have been partners for AmeriCorps around Virginia. This is really our chance to do a big public event to show Youth Mental Health Corps is starting. This is all the great work AmeriCorps is doing. We want there to be more support for this. All of that policy work that we've talked about in the past, all of it starts by doing things like this where we can show up, bring everyone together, and really make sure that people see what AmeriCorps is doing and how much of a resource it is for communities in Virginia. It's encouraged for AmeriCorps members nearby. So if you all have For those of you in different parts of the state, if you have members who are serving in and around the Richmond region, we welcome you to join for this. There is going to be a part of this that is, mostly talking and remarks and some lunch. And there's also going to be a part of this that's completing service projects together. So this is another great opportunity to do day of service with members from across the region. If you have questions about that, let me know, but know that this invite will be going out to everyone. All right, I do see a question for Mary in the chat. Is the launch also mandatory for us? Asking because one concept we have is for our AmeriCorps staff to cover programs for members. Mary, we can follow up on that individually on like how you all want to handle that. I know we're partnering with you all on that service project at GS Reed Elementary School, GH Reed Elementary School afterwards. So we can chat about the logistics and how we can make that easy on your end. Know that I'm here for that day to really help with a lot of the logistics and the, driving traffic as it happens. But for non-youth mental health core programs, note that, again, not mandatory, but it's highly encouraged for you all to participate in this. We'll be getting a lot of folks in the room together. Any other questions about Youth Mental Health Core launch or any other notes from Serve Virginia staff?
Hey, Alex, this is Samantha. I don't know if that question came in during the virtual launch slide or the Youth Mental Health Core, but the virtual launch it's not mandatory for program directors or staff. It's mandatory for members that are taking their oath of service that day, and it'll be good for them to connect.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Samantha. All right. And yeah, there's Katie's comment. Do you want program staff to attend? Yeah, similarly, virtual launch, just members, program staff don't need to be there. For Youth Mental Health Core launch, you all are welcome to attend either of these events, but it is not mandatory. And again, for Youth Mental Health Core, we may have some other notes though. So if you're involved in that, keep an eye out for other instructions. All right. Lastly, just going over some notes on training here. I went over the location in base camp where all the recordings and the recap notes from our summer training are. Be sure to go back and reference that if you need any of those resources. Samantha mentioned earlier those subject matter expert calls. All of you, I tried to make sure at least one or two people from every organization got an invite on those, and you are welcome to share those with anyone who needs to be there. Those will be a great chance for anyone who wants to expand their understanding of different concepts around the AmeriCorps grants, or anyone who is a new staff person to kind of build up their knowledge is welcome to attend those. The last thing I want to highlight that you'll see from Serve Virginia, as we release the VCEI data, we will be having a series of webinars throughout the year. We'll make sure that you all know when those are happening if you're interested in getting more of that information and being part of that network to learn about that as well. All right, and then you covered those slides earlier after you moved them, Samantha. So I will pull up the final questions and turn it back to you.
Awesome, thank you. And just for sure, we want everybody to be at the virtual launch. I think it would be awesome if the whole portfolio, staff, members was there. It's a really awesome event. My favorite part is when we all go off mute and take the pledge together, and it's amazing. It's incredible. It's the best part of the year, to be honest. All right, we have 4 minutes left. Any final thoughts or questions, concerns, musings, jokes? Anybody have anything? Paul, did you take yourself off mute?
Yeah, because we want to hear a joke from you.
Oh, no, I'm good. You can follow me on Instagram, though. All right. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you all for being here, and we'll send a follow-up email soon. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.